everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Father James. I have my Our Lady of Guadalupe mug for two reasons. Number one, well, I'm kind of in the church, so I thought I definitely needed a churchy mug. And secondly, I want to talk to you today about a very significant moment in the history of Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish. So that's why I have my coffee in this mug. It is the week after Thanksgiving weekend, and I think it's so important for us, not just as individuals or as families, but as a parish, in the midst of so much change and difficulties and challenges, that we stop and say what we're grateful for. And I'm incredibly grateful to be the pastor of this parish at this time. The other day I was thinking, I had a momentary kind of a moment of a bit of self-pity. I was, I get this challenge and this challenge. And then a part of me thought, but if it wasn't difficult, I'd be bored. I'm actually grateful that this is challenging. It's great that it's challenging, because the best of life comes out of facing challenges. I mean, who says it's supposed to be easy, right? So I'm grateful. I'm grateful for being here. I'm grateful for the challenges. I'm grateful for the incredible people that we have at this parish, who have been long-term parishioners at all the different locations throughout the past number of years, for the people who are even new to our parish. There are so many amazing, grateful people. For instance, this past weekend, we put the call out for the food bank, and the food pantry here at the St. Peter's location is stuffed to the gills. There's not an empty shelf. You guys were amazing, and we're so grateful. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for the response this weekend to come and be present at the morning masses with the Archbishop, with his visit to us. I'm grateful for the Archbishop's visit and his message that he gave in his homily. And afterwards, and we had a wonderful meeting in the Parish Center with the Pastoral Council, Finance Council, and some of the standing committees with him. And I'm grateful for that time of dialogue and discussion that we had as well. So there's a lot that I'm grateful for. And I probably should stop there, because if I keep on going, I'm going to get too detailed and end up leaving someone out. So I'm grateful for all of that. I was really struck this past weekend with the gospel, and I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you around the gospel, the story of the rich young man who comes to Jesus. He was a good man. He was obviously enthusiastic, and the gospel says that he ran up to Jesus. He was very enthusiastic, very eager, very religious. He really earnestly wants to know, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He's sincere. And when Jesus says, keep the commandments, he's like, yeah, I do all that. So this is a young man who's fairly committed. What else, he says, should I do? And Jesus' response, of course, as we know the story, he basically gives him a spiritual right hook right on the jaw. If you want to be perfect, go sell all your possessions, give the money to the poor, and come follow me. And it's like, I don't think he was expecting that answer. And he leaves, grieving. He walks away. And we don't know what happened to him. We don't know if he ever came back or later followed Jesus, or what could have happened with him and in him and through him if he had. But I was thinking through that text, and three things struck me. Before Jesus gives the spiritual right hook, the text says something very beautiful. It says that Jesus looked at him and loved him. Looked at him and loved him. It's the Lord's first response. It's the foundation of everything that we do in the Christian life. It's the foundation of how we are to face the challenges of the Christian life, how we respond to the invitation of Jesus to go deeper, The starting point is Jesus looks at us and loves us. Jesus looked at him and loved him, and surely the young man experienced that gaze. He experienced Jesus looking at him in such a searching way, loving him for who he was. And that's the start of everything for us as well. And then Jesus puts out this challenge to the rich young man to give away all of his riches, which is interesting because Jesus didn't go around saying that to every single wealthy person he met. I mean, Joseph of Arimathea was wealthy. He was a follower of Jesus. Martha and Mary, scholars tell us, were in all likelihood fairly well off. Jesus hung out at their house. He didn't tell them to give everything away. What seems to be the case is something that Pope Francis referred to in his homily this past weekend for the Synod in Rome. He said it very beautifully. He said, I'm saying this and I've just forgotten what he said, but he said something like, whatever is in your heart where God should be, that's what the Lord's going to challenge you to give up. And that's the thing. For this young man, it was his riches. That was the thing that prevented him from going all in, from going really deep. That was the thing for him. It might not be that for other people. It might be something else. It might be a question of unforgiveness or unhealthy attachment or a broken relationship or an area of sinfulness and struggle, an area of pride, a particular possession. I don't know. It's different from all of us. What occupies that place in our heart that really is a place that God should occupy? That's what the Lord is going to call us to give up. Why? So that we can experience the fullness of the kingdom. The point of the gospel is that whatever it is for each of us, the Lord is going to, at some point, sooner or later, say to us, hey, how about giving that up? So that's the second point. The Lord is going to call us to give up that which stops us from experiencing the fullness of life. The third point, and this is something that I marvel at when I think of the ministry of Jesus. Jesus allows us to be free. Like he let this young man walk away. Let's remember for a second, he was a rich young man, right? I mean, if I was Jesus, I would have like, okay, 75%, 50%. Let's negotiate a little bit. Jesus doesn't negotiate. I mean, he says it plainly. This is what you need to surrender. And he gives us the freedom to walk away. And I think that's the same in our own personal lives as well, and the truth is that even though we walk away, I don't think Jesus stopped loving that young man. He didn't say, well, I don't love you anymore. No, Jesus still looks at him in love, maybe with sorrow, because he wants more for him. And that's the reason of the invitation of Jesus to let go. It's not because he wants us, oh, I see you're happy with something that's not me, so I want to make you miserable. No, it's, if anything occupies the space in our heart that belongs to God alone, we're not going to be fulfilled. We're not going to be fully human even. And Jesus wants for us the fullness of life. And I want to bring this into the realm of the context of the life of a parish for a second, because in our present moment as a parish, we're asking these very questions. What do we need to do as a parish to experience the fullness of life? I once heard a number of years ago a Christian speaker speak about what he called the redemptive potential of your church, of your parish. So he asked the question, has your particular church, your parish, reached its redemptive potential? That means, are we reaching the potential, our God-given potential for the work of the kingdom of God? Are we? Because I would say it's a pretty good question every church has to ask. Are we actually reaching the potential that God wills for us, that God calls us to? And if the answer is no to that, then what are we going to do to change that? The question is, what are we going to give up? And we're free to walk away. It's not that God's going to stop loving us. But if we want to reach our redemptive potential, if we want to reach the fullness of life, what's stopping us? What do we have to give up? And that's really, the question the Lord is asking us as a parish as we grapple with our present reality, our need to change how we do things. We can't keep investing time and energy and resources into the things that we invested in the past, because the methodologies of the past no longer work in the present. They haven't worked for decades. And we can't keep doing it. The Lord is saying, what are you going to give up? And this weekend we faced the question firmly of the question of our buildings that take so much time and energy. Yes, several of them are sacred buildings. They're dedicated to the worship of God. They're not just buildings. There's a specific value to them that it goes beyond their mere functionality. But still, that the central act or the commandment of Jesus for the church is to be a church that goes forth and makes disciples. And if we don't do that, we're not going to have anyone to worship in these buildings. if we don't begin to shift our time, energy, and resources into the thing that will guarantee our future as we move forward. And so the question is, are we willing to give it up? Jesus says to the rich young man, there's one thing you lack. And I think he's giving the same invitation to us to consider that, what we're lacking and what we're willing to let go in order to reach the fullness of life he has with us. And just with the rich young man and with each of us, the starting point for this invitation is love. Jesus looks at us and loves us. And here's the truth. We're only going to be able to move through these times of change and grapple with these questions in a relative sense of peace, only if we're grounded in the love of Jesus, if we know his gaze into our lives. So that's my invitation to you as we, as a parish, journey into this coming week. We have 2 meetings scheduled by the listening committee, Tuesday, October 19th, and Thursday, October 21st, here in this location because of, again, COVID restrictions and our need to check vaccination. We decided to have it here because we have the technology to record and to bring people in on Zoom. Tuesday night is focused on the question of Immaculate Conception Church. Thursday night on the question of St. Paul's Church. We really don't know what to expect. We have no idea how many people are going to come, what the dynamic is going to be like, but the listening committee has formulated a plan to maximize the fairness of the evening so that everyone who wants to speak will have as much a chance as anyone else does to say something as well. And please know that these 2 meetings are just the beginning of a longer process of meetings. The listening committee is going to be meeting with smaller groups of parishioners as well. So this is not exhausting the consultation process. Please pray for that process, pray for our parish, because, in the end, we heard in the gospel story that rich young man went away grieving. And no matter what happens for us as a parish in these next few weeks, few months, this next year, there's going to be grieving. You already know this. There's going to be grieving. But better to grieve loss of parish identity or loss of a building. And that's for all of us. I mean, it's not just Immaculate Conception and St. Paul's that's potentially going to be grieving this. St. Anthony's has also lost their identity as a parish. There's no longer a Sunday Mass in that location. And even here at St. Peter's, we sometimes say, well, nothing changed for St. Peter's. A lot has changed for the people in this location because many of the faithful long-term parishioners are looking around and saying, I don't recognize half the people in church because a lot of people have joined and things are different now, not just because of amalgamation, but because of COVID as well. And so everyone is grieving. I think the only people who are not grieving are new parishioners. So you can help the rest of us grieve. But the grief is real. The grief is real. But I would say that grief is better than the grief of walking away from Jesus and not responding to his invitation to let go of the things we need to let go of so that we can experience the fullness of life that he wants for us and so that we can minister to the community around us in his power so that others may come to know him and the life that he offers. Thanks for spending time with me today. Please subscribe. There's a little button down here, a little bell button down here. You can click that to stay informed. God bless everyone and take care.